Bonjour. This is section 1.6 in Algebra 2, and this is solving linear inequalities. So we talked about earlier in this chapter about solving equations with an equal sign. Inequalities are really similar, just a couple differences that we'll talk about here in a minute. The main time when you hear inequalities in real life, or not in a math setting, have a lot to do with kind of rights, if you're talking about whatever side you fall on, gay marriage, stuff like that. Otherwise, one of the biggest things that came out recently was there's the amount of money that the richest 1% or 10% or whatever get in the world is not really equal to how much the rest of the either 90 or 99% get. So in class we'll watch a YouTube video about the income inequality, just to kind of get you to think about where inequalities show up outside of mathematics settings. But in mathematics settings, I think this is fairly simple. This is kind of an early thing in Algebra 1, so the problems will go by really fast, I think, and it's just very similar to the equations. Again, there's just one difference we'll talk about in a minute, but very, very similar later on. So this is a graph. It says, first of all, graph in linear inequalities. So what we do is, if we have an equal to sign at the bottom of our inequality, we'll make a closed dot. We'll make a circle and fill it in. So if you see a line on the bottom of it, you'll make a closed dot. If there's no equal to sign, you make an open circle. So we're looking at our first one. It says x is less than 2. So you go to 2, you make an open circle because there's no equal to sign underneath it. Less than is to the left. That's it. That's graphing it. Next one is this one. X is greater than or equal to -1. We have the greater than or equal to, so at -1 we'll make a closed circle because it has that line underneath. And then greater than is to the right. Again, that's it. That's graphing inequalities. We can get a little bit more complicated. We can have one like this. What this means is between. So we put a closed circle at -1 because it doesn't have the equal to sign at the bottom. So or an open circle. And then at 2, we also make an open circle because it doesn't have that equal to sign. Again, this means between, so all we do is color in between, and that's our graph. Next one, this kind of means except. So we want everything except between -2 and 1. So we want numbers less than or equal to -2. So we make a closed circle at -2. And less than is to the left. Here we make an open circle because it does not have the equal to sign at 1. And we go to the right. That's it. That's graphing. Main ideas are less than is to the left. Right. Greater than is to the right. If it has an equal to sign, close it. If it doesn't, leave it open. So that's graphing. The next thing we're going to do is solve some of these. Now, I talked about before, equations and inequalities are extremely similar, except one big thing. If you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip it. So multiply, divide, or by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. So I know I'll have a couple problems here where we have to do that, where we can practice that skill. Because otherwise it's all the same. You just try and get your variable by itself. So here our variable is x. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. Now, we have a -3 multiplied by x, so we're going to divide by a -3 on both sides, but we need to remember this big thing. This is really, really, really important. If you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to switch the sign. So we divided by a negative, so it's going to be x. This sign flips around, and 5. Negative signs kind of, again, make that whole number line kind of switch around and go backwards. So that's the idea there. Here's our next one. We can subtract 3 from both sides. Oops. I get all my x's on one side, so we can subtract x. Now again, same deal. We have a -2. When we divide by a negative, we need to flip that sign. So that's our final answer. So this is when we need to switch. We switch our sign there. Very important. Now, if you look up above, we graphed a couple kind of easy ones, and then we graphed some more complicated ones like a between or an except. So we're going to do the same thing down here. We solved a couple easy ones, and then we're going to solve a couple more difficult ones. So this is, remember, this is that between example. This is where we want x's in between those numbers on the ends. So what we can do with this one is these kind of separate it all into 3 bars. So if we add 10 here, because again we're trying to get our x by itself, if we add 10 here, we have to do that over here and over here. So whatever you do to the middle on these kinds, the between kinds, you have to do to either side as well. So same idea with this one. When we divide by 6 here, we have to divide by 6 on either end, because those inequality signs are kind of, you know, making little bars down that we have to follow. So 1 is less than x is less than or equal to 4. So that's our answer. That's it. And the last type of problem, the OR splits this up. So we'll solve the left side, and then we'll solve the right side, and then that's our final answer combined. We'll combine them at the very end, but into one sentence like this one. So we solve the left side. 3x is less than or equal to 6. We subtract the 5. We have to get rid of the 3, so we divide. So that's the final answer on the left. Now we solve the right. Independent has nothing to do with the left. We add 7 to both sides. We divide by 5. So that's our answer on the right. So what we do is we write an OR in the middle, and that's our answer. Combined, like, just leave it like that. So there's 3 kind of main tricks here. When you're graphing, make sure you know about closed circles and open circles. That's the main trick with graphing. You need to know if it's a minus, if you're dividing or multiplying by a negative, you need to flip it. And lastly, if you have a between, you do all 3 at the same time. All 3 of these at the same time. If you have an except or an OR, you do them separately. So those are the 3 big ideas here, and the 3 kind of tricky things that people run into. Otherwise, just like equals. So there you go. So that's section 1.6. If you enjoy the videos, you can always subscribe at the top there. There's a subscribe button, or leave a comment. Not making any sense. Otherwise, my email's on there too, so feel free. Any of those will work. Thanks for watching.